Christina, thank you so much for joining us, and good morning to you. Tell us particularly what this report has found.
Good morning. Yes, I think you've hit the nail on the head. The most important issue for children at the moment is the ubiquitous violence that they experience in all settings. That is their home, their school, their community, on TV. They see it and experience it everywhere.
And just speaking about, the relation between exposing children to, violence and then perpetuating gender-based violence, is it a notion of learned behavior that children see from a young age, what they have experienced that could potentially either lead them to perpetrators or still lead them to, having triggers of not dealing with their previous traumas as children?
Exactly. When children see violence perpetrated in front of them, especially between their primary caregivers, it really affects them emotionally and developmentally. And they could even develop mental health illnesses from this. And so if these are not addressed, if we do not stop the cycle of violence and the effects that the violence has on our children in childhood, we will see the perpetuation of violence from generation to generation, which is what we're seeing right now.
And Christina, what about then violence that is seen in the media, on television, via movies, or some of these games that children play? I'm sure that because it's Black Friday now, some children want their PlayStation games so they could have their favorite action, heroes there to play with. But what does that sort of like performative and entertainment do for children when they view some of the violence, scenes on television and then regard them as superheroes and entertaining?
Exactly, and we create this culture of violence by, accepting it, normalizing it. The prevention science on how to break the cycle of violence says that you have to decrease risk and increase resilience in every setting, which means that we must be very attentive to what our children are exposed to, what they engage with. And we need to, as parents, really play our role to protect and promote children's rights.
Yeah, and speaking of those recommendations coming from the report, share some of them with us, especially when you touch on the role that parents and guardians can play in this regard.
Yes, I think that's the other big factor that children spoke very loudly about during the workshops 2017-2019 with Children's NDP. They said that they have disconnected relationships with those whom they're supposed to trust. So their parents adopt a mindset or an attitude of authority and control, which doesn't encourage them to be able to go to them as a confidant. And so there are strained relationships. Also, their parents don't share information and skills with them that enable them to make important life decisions. And so the recommendations the children really make is that we do support them much more. Their parents must support them and government must support them with service provision. Grant income is very important, good health experiences like going to a clinic and having a friendly nurse attend to you, having a teacher who affirms you and doesn't shout at you. All those things speak very loudly of the realities that children face today.
Yeah. Usually when we talk about femicide or gender-based violence, and we particularly place focus on victims, Christina, we also have, topics and conversations around how some victims are afraid to speak up, some are discouraged to speak up because of fear of intimidation or past discouraging experiences. When it comes to children, when they are exposed to violence, according to your report or even your engagement with them, are they encouraged to speak up and speak out about it?
Well, currently I hold the position as the Western Cape Children's Commissioner. And with my child government monitors, which are children who work directly with my office, we've just submitted our input towards the new Children's Act. And they speak very loudly in that. Their message is very clear. Children are worthy of love and they deserve good parents. Can the state help to change the mindsets of their parents, because they really fear that when they disclose violence, that the person who they tell that to won't take them seriously, will silence them, will perhaps even tell their parents, and create greater consequences for them. So this silencing of voices not only affects women, but more so affects children around violence disclosures.
Well, Christina, that's where we'll leave it, but thank you so much for talking to us about this very important topic. Christina Nomdo, thank you.